Tonight's reading, Mark chapter 8, 31 through 38. Then he began to teach them that the Son of Man must undergo great suffering and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. He said all this quite openly, and Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But turning and looking at his disciples, he rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan, for you are setting your mind on not divine things, but on human things." He called the crowd with his disciples and said to them, "If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save it. For what will profit them to gain the whole world and forfeit their life? Indeed, what can they give in return for their life? Those who are ashamed of me and of my words, this adulterous and sinful generation of them in the Son of Man will also be ashamed when comes in glory of his Father with the holy angels."
Good evening, Prince of Peace. We have a gospel this week telling the story of listening to hard truths. As we listen to the Reverend Lauren Pittman Wright, let's reflect on those areas in our lives where we have more listening to do. What are we not hearing from God and from our neighbors? She writes, "I'm not a good listener. In the midst of our national reckoning around structural racism and white supremacy in the U.S., I found I've done a terrible job listening to my black and brown siblings. I've constantly had to resist the urge to explain myself, to be seen as good and anti-racist. I try saying all the right things. I do performative acts of allyship. And quite honestly, I need to be quiet and listen. I need to be ready to accept criticism. And instead of trying to prove anything, I need to gain awareness of my internalized biases and learned racist tendencies, and do the difficult work of unlearning them in every moment. As Mark 8, verse 33 says, 'Get behind me, Satan.' Here we find Peter stepping in and saying all the right things, rejecting the notion that Christ must suffer and die. But in the end, he's not listening to Jesus. It seems Peter's rejection of this narrative reflects his own fear of the suffering he might also face in following Christ. Let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me, Mark says in verse 34. 6 days later, the disciples are called to listen once again. In this image, which we will see in a few minutes, I zoomed out to focus on the moment of transfiguration. Jesus shines like a beacon atop the high mountain, while former prophets appear. The disciples are terrified, but also want to live this moment forever, making the glory-filled rock face their home. At once a cloud descends, obscuring things further, and God's voice echoes down, "This is my Son, the beloved, listen to him." It's almost as though Jesus had exhausted all efforts to get the disciples to listen. And God had to spectacularly reiterate the importance of listening. I think it's important to note that following God's words, all the disciples could see was Jesus. And breathe deeply as we gaze upon the image that's going to appear. Imagine placing yourself in this scene. What do you see? How do you feel? Get quiet and still, offering a silent or spoken prayer to God.
Picture you in the sun, wondering what went wrong, and falling down on your knees, asking for sympathy, and being caught in between all you wish for and all you've seen, and trying to find anything you can feel that you can believe in. May God's love be with you always. May God's love be with you. I know I would apologize if I could see your eyes. 'Cause when you showed me myself, I became someone else. I was caught in between all you wish for and all you need. I picture you fast asleep, a nightmare comes, you can't keep awake. May God's love be with you always. May God's love be with you always. May God's love be with you. 'Cause if I find my own way, how much will I find? If I find my own way, how much will I find? Will I find? I don't know anymore what it's for, I'm not even sure. If there is anyone who is in the sun, will you help me to understand? 'Cause I've been caught in between all I wish for and all I need. Maybe you're not even sure what it's for any more than me. May God's love be with you always. If I find my own way, how much will I find? If I find my own way, how much will I find? You will I find. May God's love be with you always. May God's love